Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is December 7th, 2021, and we have some kit releases. Yay. Also, a few kit announcements, and yeah, just sort of a normal show for you. Nothing special. We're not breaking news at the beginning of the video this time. So the kit announcements we have are for Aoshima for the month of March. Just a few things here. March tends to be a light month, February, March, depending on what year it is, as that is February, March are the 2 months most affected by Lunar New Year. It's going to be running, I think, a little later than normal for the next couple of years. This past year, remember, it's the end of January. Um, that made February a light month, and of course, the world came to an end shortly thereafter. So a year later, because Lunar New Year's is always the first full moon after the winter solstice, it falls a little later this year, and it's going to be Friday, February 12th. So the February kits will not be impacted because they'll have been shipped back in January before all the Lunar New Year starts. But March is probably going to end up being a little light this year, as that goes. So the March releases are a reissue of the 2000 Toyota Mark II Tourer 5, a reissue of the 1994 Toyota Hilux Double Cab, that is the regular sort of street version of the thing, not the great big monster truck version, as well as a reissue of the 2009 Nissan GTR V-Spec, the 1999 Toyota Hiace in the ASMAS VIP van, and the 2006 Toyota Estima in its fabulous VIP van. The one kit in March that is sort of the either modified reissue, long go far away reissue, whatever it tends to be for Aoshima on a given month. This month, it's a long go far away one, is the 1998 Toyota Crown Majesta. Was it the UZS 151 is the chassis designation on that. Now that kit was made, the late specification of it, back in 2013. So it's not that long since it's been out, 7 years, well, 8 years technically by the time March rolls around. But that kit was run on an extremely short run basis. I'm not sure what the thinking was behind that. Hey, we're going to put new decals and tool up. I think new wheels were put into it back in 2013, and this will represent a slightly different version than the other kit. And we're only going to make like 2,000 of them because, I don't know, we want to do this thing, but we don't think anyone's going to buy it. And it made for a very, very hard to find model kit if you did not purchase one on pre-order. I personally did not do that, and it ended up taking me another, I think, 4 years to finally track one down at a price that wasn't, in 3 digits. So if you're interested in the Crown Majestas, there only are a few of them that Aoshima did. They did the 91 version, which just got reboxed a few months ago into the model car line, and then they did a 2002 and a 2006, I think is what it is. I'm looking at my Crown Majesta shelf off in the distance there. And those other two kits have not been reissued in their factory stock forms for a while, so it wouldn't terribly surprise me if 2021 we see them come back. But that sort of late edition of the mid 90s Crown Majesta, as well as the late version of the early 90s. I'm trying to think what car it technically is. Cedric, the late version of the Cedric, are the two kits that Aoshima did in 2013, but did them on incredibly short run bases. And it, like I said, they went like that, and it's good to see this one get a rerun for anybody who happened to miss out 8 years ago when it came out. So we'll go over to the kit releases this week, and we do have a domestic release from Revell, and it is the Rebox reissue of the 1956 Chevrolet Del Rey 2-in-1. Some good-looking box art here. I will give the guys at Blitz, they've hired an actual graphic artist here instead of whatever was going on there at Hobbico before the company went bankrupt. This shows you both versions of the car that you can build. Now, there's nothing new about this kit other than obviously box art, decals. Other than that, it is the same way it came out, again, 8 years ago when it was most recently reissued in a California Wheels boxing. The California Wheels boxing did have the stock wheels and tires in it. Never showed anything about them on the box, but they were in there. So you can build this straight stock 56 Chevrolet Del Rey, and then it's got the California Wheels parts, which in this kit I think are just wheels. There might be a couple engine parts. It's been so long since I looked at my old one, and I probably should have looked in it before I started, but, if somebody wants to complain about it, let them complain about it. But at any rate, I do like the fact that in the background there you had Jumpin' Jack's Speed Shop with what looks like a 57 Ford sitting out front of it. So it's a fun, again, cohesive box art where a 57 Ford is a Revell kit. It's a newer Revell kit. The Del Rey Originally, I want to say that's what, an early 2000s, right? Because the Del Rey did not come out in a big fat box, I don't think. Because the 55 Bel Air came out, a convertible came out first, and then you got the Nomad, and then the Del Rey came on after they went back to the smaller boxes. So I think it was 2000 and early 2000s when the original Del Rey came out. But at any rate, it's a newer kit, not quite as new as that Ford, but be that as it may, fun to have back out. It's been 8 years since the last boxing of it, so available again for folks that are fans of the Tri-5. Now we move overseas because everything else is going to be a Japanese release. We do have something from almost every company. Fujimi not playing again this month in December, but we do have Hasegawa, we do have Tamiya, and we do have Aoshima. So the Tamiya release is, again, something that's been available here for a few weeks in the United States, but this is now globally released, and it is the newly modified by adding the PE in the little metal air funnels for the Lotus Europa Special. There are some new parts included in this as well. So the Lotus Europa Special is a 1988 release, I want to say. I think it's 1988. I think the Super 7 was in 86, and this one's in 88. Originally, and it's been in the catalog in and out, but it's never been like formally reissued this way, at least that I can find record of it. So this is something that was a little harder to find if you wanted to get it. Now, of course, Fujimi did one a few years ago now. It's probably been 5 to 8 years since that was released, but this one has a full engine in it, and obviously now it has the funnels for the engine. Functionally, it's the same engine as I believe it's in the Super 7 as far as the actual drivetrain goes, but obviously in this case it's in the back instead of the front. The gold pinstripe decals are there. It does include new, I believe they're Watanabes, and technically, although they might be mini lights, those two wheels look very, very similar. But the car that this replicates with the new parts is a Japanese car, at least Japanese-based car, so it's probably not mini lights, probably Watanabes. But it gives you the new Watanabes. It gives you the new rear wing. There are 2 sets of winglets with it, so you can make sort of a rear wing or a rear wing that specifically replicates the one car. If I remember, I'll throw an image of the real car here, and hopefully that'll remind me when I'm editing. But otherwise, kit itself basically the same. Same kit, obviously just fresh decals and the PE parts added, as well as the new wheels and the rear wing. So that is back out for folks that are fans of the Europeans. I guess that's a sports car. In the age that would have been a sports car based on the low weight to power ratio that had going on. And we'll go over to Aoshima. A few of these are catch-up kits from the end of November. So first up, you have the Vertex Ridge S15 Nissan Silvia tuner version. That's been done a few times. Actually, it's one of the first cars in the tuner lineup, so obviously nothing new to report there. And then we go over here to the AE86 Toyota Corolla 11 in its Toyota Racing Development over fender version. This is sort of the basis of the Group A race car that ran. Aoshima did, probably about 14 years ago now, did do a run of they're called Junior Sprint also back in the day, but a run of these as actual like liveried race cars. But it's been a while, probably licensing involved, keeping those from coming back that way. So you get these street versions of them instead, and then the other one is this, the 86 Sprinto Truno with the Toyota Racing Development over fender treatment as well. Which is, again, the same sort of thing. Get Watanabe wheels and the over fenders. I think the over fender kit is more or less the same in both of these. And then you mosey on down your way. Again, this would have been available as a liveried race car 14, 15 years ago, and now we just keep getting the reissues of it in a street car version to keep the molds going and make everybody happy as far as the investment of making all those race car parts go. Also, the 2 wing sets were reissued in November, and they are the Wing Parts Volume 1 and the Wing Parts Volume 2. Very specifically, some very 80s and very early 90s wings there. Have some applications, not something that I necessarily see myself using, so I've not actually ordered any of those. And then we have the last of what was considered to be a new release kit from November, and it is this, the 1994 Toyota Estima Lucida and Emina. Now, we talked about this when this kit was announced, and I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but due to the way that the Japanese tax their populace, they do it on weight and power and width and length. And so the Toyota Estima is what we got here in the United States as a Toyota Previa minivan. There is no actual kit of a Previa that I'm aware of, but they do make a full-size Estima. The Lucida and the Emina are two trim levels, basically, that are based on a slightly narrower, slightly shorter version of that Estima minivan for tax reasons. They're a little narrower, a little shorter, therefore they fall into a lower tax bracket. This allows you to build basically one of 5 different versions of this kit, and the easiest way I can show you show those to you, easy for me to say, is to give you a little glimpse of the instruction manuals here. So first up, you have the Emina version, and you can build the Emina in its early model or mid model. So this is going to be an early 90s or around 1994 is the middle model. And looking at the instructions here, you can see the most obvious differences are they have different front bumpers, as well as a slightly different front grille treatment. And then on the back of the vehicle, you have a slightly different center panel in the rear tail lights, being the difference between the early model and the late model. And then you get the Lucida. I'm going to say it's a Lucida because it was a Toyota Cressida. So yeah, I'm saying Lucida. If it's the wrong pronunciation, sue me. But you have an early model, late model, middle model, and a late model on this. And you can see that each of these, when looking at the front of the cars, has a separate different bumper that are different from the bumpers in the Emina. And then you have different grille treatments on the early and middle. And then the late model has a completely different front end grille treatment. And then looking at the rears of them, the early model, late, middle model have 2 different style, again, center parts of their taillight section. And then the late model has a completely different taillight treatment entirely. So what does that mean to you as the builder? Well, you're going to get 2 bodies in this kit. You can only build one completed model out of that, but you do now have another, because the Honda Odyssey minivan was the same way with 2 bodies, and another paint mule, minivan paint mule from Aoshima. So 2 bodies. Again, one completion is all you're going to get out of it, but that does give you quite a few options there. 5 different ways you can build that kit out of the box. All of those kits in the past would have been sold individually, meaning you would have had to buy 5 of them to get all 5 of those boxings. And so it's a lot of parts in that box, as well as obviously getting a lot of options. And for the most part, none of those vans have been available for somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 26 years, depending on which version you're talking about. Some of them have been released back in when it was called the Best Car GT line. A couple of the Eminas made it out then, but some of those early Lucida, early Emina parts have not been in the kits since they were released back in 95, 96, and 1994. So yeah, a little bit of a long go far away on that. No new parts added, but just a big compilation of parts. And then we do have 2 Aoshima kits that are December releases. These are just restock, basically. You have the Genesis R90 Skyline RS. This was probably one of the most requested Skyline kits that Aoshima had made as an R30, because it was done once in I think, 1990s was when this kit originally came out. Might have been reissued in the 2000s, but it had been a long time since it got reissued. Got reissued a year and a half ago now, and now it's making another trip around, so clearly demand for this still exists, even after the reissue. And then the other reissue is the 1993 Toyota Chaser, Toyota Cresta, 2-in-1 here. The Cresta and the Chaser basically, I think there's actually, this might be another 2-body kit. I'd have to dig mine out to look at it, but I think it's a 2-body kit because the Chaser is a pillarless hardtop, and therefore the body is slightly different. But the biggest difference between these two, besides one's a sedan, one's a pillarless hardtop, are the wheels. The front bumpers are different, and then the front grille treatment is different. Pretty much other than that, the cars are more or less the same, but they both use the same chassis. They both use the same interior. And again, that's just a straight, basically, restock. And then we go to Hasegawa for everything else. So we'll do these sort of in order of newness. How about that? First up in the order of newness, you have this release, which is the Team Italia Nissan R92 CP in the 1993 Suzuka 1,000-kilometer race-winning livery. So nothing new about this kit other than the decals. Get the old Pepto-Bismol pink paint job here. They give you the pinstripe that delineates, easy for me to say again, the pink and the white as being the only thing here, so you don't get a whole bunch of white decals or a whole bunch of pink decals. It's just the words and the letters and the numbers, and then you get the pinstripe to go around the car itself. But this is a new tool kit. The R92CP, I think, is now basically 2 years old, and based on a 2.5-year-old tooling, so everything will fit nice and tidy for you on that. Just again, new set of decals for a winning car. And then you have this release, which is the Mitsubishi Galant GTO 2000 GSR with chin spoiler. So this will build you a 1973 Mitsubishi Galant. That's basically the year of the body style. I do appreciate the fact that they give you the orange and blue stripe in this, which is something that's missing from the original 73 GTO release, because the kit was done in orange and they chose not to release the striping decal with it because, you know, God forbid you paint it a different color. But the only new piece to this entire kit is that spoiler down there below the turn signals. Other than that, it's a straight reissue. It's a resin piece. So again, this is one of those resin chin spoiler all the thing boxes, which again I seem to be doing pretty well since I keep doing them. And then a Hasegawa kit with some old parts added into a newer kit. This is the Suzuki Jimny ski version. And so these are the figures and the ski rack and the skis and everything out of the Lancia Delta Integral ski version, which came out in the 1990s, based on some late 80s type of ski wear and ski figures. And you might think, oh, why didn't they do new figures or new tech, if you will, for the ski stuff? But remember, the Jimny is a 1980s, 1990s car, so this was a kind of a unique. Somebody had a aha moment in the office where they said, hey, we've got this tooling for the ski stuff. The figures are injected molded styrene; they're not resin. Sorry, Brian. And so they just basically reran that runner or two of parts. I'm not sure if there's. I think it might be two runners of parts. The skis are on one, and the roof rack and stuff, and then the figures are on a separate one. But at any rate, this is just taking some old stuff laying around and throwing it into a kit. These Jimnys are great kits, very detailed for what they are. Curbside pieces. Gotta kind of like what it is. I understand, but they're still very detailed kits. And then last but not least for this video, I believe, I'm going to take a little scan through my files here, make sure we're done. I think we are with this, the brand new, all new tool Nissan Skyline R32 GTR Nismo Edition. So, this is not a Fujimi kit. This is not a rebox of the Tamiya kit or any other myth or whatnot you may have heard. This is a completely brand new piece of tooling. Representing a 1990 Skyline. This is one of those kits that's more significant than it really seems on first inspect, because yes, the Tamiya kit does have an engine, and the street custom version of this did add some of the missing turbo piping to the engine. It's still not a complete turbo intercooler system, because the tooling is based in 1988, and it was 1988, you're just getting into the part of the era where Tamiya was starting to put engines into things. 1986 being the first time that Tamiya put an engine into something when they made the 956 Porsche Group C cars. So it's sort of a compromise. Also a compromise because Tamiya's R32 is a dual-use tool where it is a race car, it is a street car. Now, that remains true with the Hasegawa kit. There will be Group A Japanese touring car, or Japanese, JTCC cars specifically, done from this tooling. But the way Hasegawa has designed this kit, the hood is separate, so I guess if you wanted to try to cram an engine into it somehow, you could. But the front bumper is separate. A lot of the rear end components are separate. The side spats are separate. Making this into the Nismo version and then backdating it to a regular GTR, and then turning it into a race car, and everything else are so much easier with it being engineered in 2020 with all of these parts being separate, because a lot of those things are molded into the Tamiya kit. The front bumper, rear bumper, and all that is molded into that body. In order to put the Nismo ducts in the front bumper on the Tamiya kit, you have to hog them out from the back end and then put the parts into the openings that you've made. So this is gonna be very, very exciting. I know, again, it's curbside, so people will about it. Again, I ask you how often you display your cars with the hood off and or upside down. Hey, it's also got a hood. One of the other big problems with the Tamiya kit is the hood is clear, because I guess the gimmick there was to show off all the work you put into 3/4 of the turbocharged engine that's in this kit. This one's got a real hood in it, so it'll actually fit. The rear wing is separated into several parts, so getting it together will be a great deal easier to detail paint and things like that. The only sort of, I guess, downside, demerit, if you will, to this kit is the fact that it is a base steel floor, uh, sort of universal. What I mean by that is the full interior is there for the streetcar, backseat is separate and everything like that, but the floor pan itself basically is carpetless. So it's not just flat like the Hasegawa kits you see, like the Starlet, where it's just flat and there's no texture to it, and there's also no carpeting added on it, and the rear seat is separate. Oh no, this poor thing hasn't been touched in weeks and not threw it on the floor. But anyway, there's no carpeted texture to this, but the Hasegawa, yes, redundantly trying to catch my frame of reference before I drop that. The Hasegawa's Skyline has an actual ribbed steel floor like the race car would have, where it has the sound insulation and everything stripped out of it as well. So chances are, if you want to build one of these, you're gonna have to flock the floor, possibly get some very, very, very thin sheet styrene, because you don't want to build the floor up too much or else things won't fit, to flatten the floor out like that, and then emboss it, flock it, whichever your choice may be on techniques there. Or just not care. I mean, if you paint the whole thing black, probably chances are, looking into it from the side windows, because remember, Japanese kits, all the windows are closed up. The chances are, looking into it that way, you're not going to be able to tell the floor is, a not carpeted version. Although if you paint it in a lighter color, like the grays that the Skylines tend to be in, I think it'll be pretty obvious from the outside, because most Skyline R32s, I think actually all of the Nismo versions, are a light gray carpet with dark gray seats. So again, probably best looking at doing something with that floor. Same thing's going to go with the new Supra that comes out in the end of this month, where it also is going to have the ribbed, no insulation sheet metal floor, because again, that also going to be a race car. I am willing to have, in order to have a new tool, R32, a new tool 3rd gen Supra, as well as race cars from both of those things, I'm willing to deal with that small sort of compromise, if you will, in order to get those two kits to be available. It may just been one of those things where you're looking at the costs, and tooling two completely separate interior floor pans may have been what it would have been to make neither one of those projects happen. So we can look back later and say, wow, the sales of this new GTR and the sales of this new A70 Supra were superb, and look at how much money they made. But going in, you kind of gotta hedge your bets, and reduce your risk, I guess, be the best way to say that, to try to keep it on, under budget, and something you could use for everything. So is what it is, and I guess I'm okay with it. So we'll see how the sales go and how people actually react to it once they have it in their hands and see that. So anyway, I hope you guys had a great weekend. We're now in December. We had our first snowfall here in Pennsylvania, first measurable snow already this year. So that was kind of fun. And yeah, hope everybody had a great weekend, and we'll see you guys on the other side.